Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another Ladder Legends replay analysis. Today we have a Platinum PvT from Meal Solutions versus Jimmy AZC. All right. What are the notes for this one? The notes... Was I just too greedy trying to get my third up versus this Terran who was doing a one base all in? Based on that statement, the answer is absolutely. If a Terran's doing a one base all in, a lot of times you don't even want a natural, let alone a third. You can get away with a natural though, no problem. But I'm gonna turn my game sounds up a bit. Okay, you scout one gas, extra barracks here. He's trying to make it look normal, but what you're looking for is if you ballpark see that this is less than 10 SCVs on this mineral line, that means that he's missing workers, and if he hasn't been building them, he's missing minerals, and in this case, it's both. He's not only missing workers, but he is missing minerals as well. Also, even with a gas first, this should be coming down, the CC should be coming down right around 146, so if the probe is down here and you don't see a worker coming down to take this base right at this time, you know it's a one base. So we're taking our natural. Okay, we got our Cybercore on the way. I like that we went Cybercore first. Let's make sure we put the gateway up a bit. You can put the pylon by the gas and then the gateway up like this. That way you're not hindering your own gas mining like this. You're hindering it pretty heavily here. And then the first thing we want to do is we want to make sure we put a safety battery at the bottom and a safety battery at the top here. So I like that you're chronoing your unit. We need to make sure we're adding in the safety batteries like so. SCV coming in very late here. This tells you that it is most definitely a proxy. There we go. We have our Adept out. The moment you see a Reaper show up here and you see an SCV in here very late, we should start second unit as well. But yeah, not having the safety battery is definitely a mistake here. Good kill. So yeah, Reapers can't run away from Adepts, so it's a very good idea to just sit there and fight. Okay, we're going for a battery here. So if you want to... Best thing you can do is keep mining, grab like 4 or 5 probes, and attack move towards the Reapers until the unit's done. And then pull them back as necessary. But what we're doing right now is we're reducing our income to effectively nothing. So, let's make sure we go back to mining here. We have a lot of probes down in the corner that aren't mining as well. Yeah, so that we have lost a ton of mining time over here, which has allowed him to gather up enough units that this is actually very, very scary. So a unit that's very effective here is also building a sentry, overcharging it for Guardian Shield. Guardian Shield gives 2 armor to all units under it. Reapers attack twice, therefore armor applies twice. So you'll be making each one of these pistol attacks do 2 damage instead of 4. It's a 50% damage reduction against Reapers. Very, very good. All right. Very slow on the reaction here. We allow him to kill our pylon. And we go for it. You're still ahead of him on workers, so we're okay. We just need to make sure that we're taking this seriously. We're going for an observer here. And a second gateway. Okay, I would have loved to have seen 2 additional gateways earlier on. That's alright. Definitely need to be near the battery while we're fighting. We lost 2 stalkers there. An Immortal would also not be a terrible call. There we go. And a Chrono Boost is going down that as well. Attacking your own Stalker, not ideal. Killed 2 Reapers, not bad. Other Immortals out, you're also Chrono Boosting the Gateway. Not a bad call. We could be hitting these Reapers from the high ground. Nice. Now you have the Immortal here, so there's not that much more he can do. Would love to have seen us replace a pylon down here for this battery before we decided to fight this bunker, right? You could even have put a pylon on the high ground right here and it would power this battery. Good job getting a shutdown with the Immortal here. He's following it up with the 1 base 3 racks. So take a look at the units lost. Not a bad opener for him, but you didn't die, and you have significantly more workers than he does. So you're in a pretty good spot. Now we just need to make sure we're warping in stalkers, and we get a good idea of what's going on. You could send your observer out to do that. But for now, we should just be focusing on saturating our 2 bases, going for 4 to 5 gateways, and maybe blink. Getting some basic upgrades. But first and foremost, we need to know if he took a natural or not. He definitely could have by this point, but he didn't. And what his follow-up is. So... I'm going to take the third here. which I don't mind you doing necessarily, but we're still doing it off of only 2 gateways, and we have 38 probes. I would have really much rather seen you add some additional production here, because most of the time Terrans, even if they're not going for something like this, they're just going to follow up with another all-in, and that's what our friend right here is doing. All right, got double Liberator on the main base. Yep. Okay. Go for the kill. I appreciate that. Get these probes back to mining. Once again, we... Yep. Nice, you almost get the medevac as well. So, now, based on your current text, like, yes, we did not need a third base, but you should have enough to defend a third base as long as we keep making Immortals and warping in. But the amount of production we have is, unfortunately, it's about even with this guy, and he's been on one base for a long time, so... Okay, you see no natural with an observer, so we should be panicking. This isn't the time for Forge, this is time for 3 more gateways. A sentry would also be very, very ideal here. So it looks like he's going for just a stem all in with Liberators. That is his plan. I would love to have seen a couple additional batteries here. Oh, we're going for... Now we're adding the gateways, we're also going for Robo Base. So we're adding in a bunch of units that aren't helping us deal with what's going on. So you scouted his bases, you see that there's no natural. Yet we're going for +1 and teching up. So we need to make sure we use the information that we have, and I would love to have seen you gather more information and seen all these units, and that it's just going to be a follow-up all-in, because then not only would we have had everything at the front, but we could have focused way more on stuff that'll help us right now, which in this case, what would be very beneficial here? It'd be very nice to have Charge and just additional Immortals, as well as a Sentry for Guardian Shield. Can't emphasize enough how helpful Guardian Shield is in these situations. Okay, he's also doing an SCV pull. Yeah, but it's just the amount of money we've spent on buildings and not units. Like, you're even adding in 2 additional cannons here. So it's just like, let's just take stock. Okay, 300. We're just doing total resource count, not necessarily minerals and gas. 300, 600. This is going to be 900. 1050. What's that? 1250. 1400. Yeah, we spent 1,400 resources on buildings in the last minute and a half or so, while this guy is doing the most all-in version possible. So if we had 1,400 more resources worth of units here, and I like the gateways, actually. I wish the gateways would have been first, so let's take 300 out of that. So if we had 1,100 more resources worth of units here, that's about 8 more Stalkers, or of any, that could be 2 more Immortals, 4 more Stalkers, and a Sentry. Like, we would be at about 100 supply instead of 80 to 70. You would be even with him on army. Here he comes in. We have no idea that his army's right here. And he's about to attack us while we have all of our more than half of our units in the main base. Okay, leave this base. Move some Stalkers around. I don't hate that. Nice. We got a lib, but we lose 4 Stalkers for it. Not ideal. And we're coming in here. Oh, we do get a Colossus out, which is very nice. But now it's fighting by itself. So you get some slow warp-ins in the back. It is going to allow you to get the Liberator. And you still have a decent chance of holding this. We need the Colossus to be helping out, though. This Colossus is not doing much. There he goes. Oh, we walked forward. He got the Colossus. And then that ended up being game. But yeah. So, yeah, I understand the side there, but let's make sure that we're handling the Reapers a little bit better in the early game. That just seemed like a lack of information, a little bit of a lack of knowledge. Also, be careful putting buildings in places like this. You're completely blocking this mineral patch from being mined. Actually, I guess it could have been mined from the outside, but still, just in general, most of the time, things like that will block these mineral patches out, but that's just a side note. But yeah, Sentry is very effective versus Reapers, and make sure you gather proper information with your observer to be able to handle the follow-up. All we needed was just units in general. We didn't necessarily need a third base. We just needed things like Charge, and Colossus are also nice here as well. If this were a Colossus about to pop out, you would still have a very tiny chance. But yeah. Hopefully this helps Meal Solutions. Thank you so much for the submission, man, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.